Hey, my name's Rafael, you're watching Rock and Roll Garage, and today we're going to talk about Mr. Bill Ward, who is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated drummers of all time. He's the co-founder of Black Sabbath and played on most of their classic albums. And you probably didn't know this, but he was the vocalist on 2 tracks the band released in the 70s. And I'm going to tell you which tracks are those ones. But please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave your comment, tell me if you like the songs, and if you want to, you can read the article about this video that is in the description, okay? Well, let's start. Bill Ward is such a magnificent drummer. He's one of my favorite drummers. My favorite band is Black Sabbath, so, I couldn't love him more. And the interesting thing is that when you think about Black Sabbath vocalists, Black Sabbath vocals, obviously you got the Ozzy era, the Dio era, and then you had Glenn Hughes, Ray Gillan, and then Ian Gillan too, and Tony Martin, for example. But Bill Ward was the vocalist twice, and the first song he was the vocalist. I think it's one of the most underrated Black Sabbath songs of all time, but it's obviously very different. It's called It's Alright, and it was released on the 1976 album Technical Ecstasy, which is also a very underrated album. And that track, it's actually a ballad, and the vocals, it's just great. I think Bill did a very, very good job on it. And, it's a really different song that... it's not at all like the Sabbath, the heavy Black Sabbath we know from the first albums, but he also has a tremendous guitar solo by Tony Iommi. It's a perfect track. And a very interesting thing is that Guns N' Roses used to cover this song a lot. It was also a song that Guns N' Roses liked, especially Axl Rose. And the interesting thing is that if you see the official video for this song, which is only the band performing the track at the time, Bill Ward is wearing a red bandana, and I mean, that was one of the Axl Rose's trademarks. I don't know if that's something to do with that, if he was inspired by that, but he loved that song, and he also used to wear a red bandana. And it's a coincidence, and Guns N' Roses, he covered the track during the 80s, and it was featured on their 1999 album, which was released with recordings, which had recordings from 1987 until 1993, live recordings, and it was called Live Era 87 to 93. And if you're wondering, well, why Bill Ward recorded that track? Well, he wrote the track, and at the time, Ozzy liked what he heard when Bill showed the song to the band, and Ozzy encouraged him. He said, well, you should record it. And that's what happened. That's why he recorded that track. And we go to the second one, which was on the follow-up on the next album, the final album Black Sabbath released, featuring Ozzy Osbourne before he returned to the band, and it was called Never Say Die, obviously, but the song was called Swinging the Chain. That was another song that had Bill Ward on vocals, and I don't think it's as good as It's Alright, but it's also a good track. And it's really interesting to hear that, to hear Bill Ward singing. And he said in interviews that he at the time he recorded the track not because Ozzy encouraged him, but because Ozzy was losing interest by then, and that's one of the reasons why he ended up being fired from the band in the late 70s, because he obviously had a big problem with addiction, and also wasn't being as committed as he was to the band, and that's why Bill Ward ended up recording that track. And obviously, those are the only two songs by Black Sabbath which had Bill Ward on vocals. But you know, the contribution he gave to the band during his years as drummer is just fantastic. I mean, he's extremely influential. He influenced a huge number of drummers all over the world, and I think it was a fundamental part of the band. Obviously, Vinny Appice did a good job when he played the drums. You had Eric Singer later on. You had Causey Power for quite a while, but I don't think anybody can really be better than Bill Ward on Black Sabbath on drums. You know, hands down. You can't really compare him to anybody else who played the drums in the band. And it was a shame that he wasn't part of the final reunion, and he was part of all the albums the band released with Ozzy Osbourne in the 70s. He was part of Heaven and Hell, the first album with Ronnie James Dio, but then he left the band due to drinking problems. And he returned, and he wasn't part of Mob Rules. In Mob Rules, it was on Mob Rules was Vinny Appice, who played the drums. But he returned in 1983 when the band recruited Ian Gillan to be the vocalist, and that is his final studio album with Black Sabbath, was Born Again, which is a very underrated album in my opinion too. And it's just a shame that he wasn't part of the band anymore after that. In terms of studio recording, he reunited with the band multiple times over the decades. But sadly, he wasn't part of their final tour, which had the final Black Sabbath album, which was 13, released in 2013. It was the Rage Against the Machine and Audioslave drummer Brad Wilk who played the drums. And on the tour, those years, it was Ozzy's drummer, Tommy Clufitos, who played the drums all the concerts the band did on that reunion tour that lasted 5-6 years, more or less. And well, I hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, leave your comment to please tell me if you like those songs, if you knew about these songs or not. And obviously visit rockandrollgarage.com. Okay, see you later.